my people. Today we are talking about how to deal with the quiver in your voice when you get up to speak, or when it's your turn on that Zoom to speak. What do you do with a quivering voice? So drop me a comment, like and subscribe. Let me know if this is helpful to you. Let's dive in. All right. So what is that quiver in the voice all about? I don't have to tell you, you know. That quiver is about anxiety. It's about feeling exposed, like people are looking at you, right? It's just a manifestation of a feeling of fear and worry. But there's so much more to it than that. That quiver in your voice can only be resolved when you really understand the physiology behind it. That quiver in your voice is happening because your brain is registering the moment of you speaking as a threat. And not just a little threat, a very big, real physical threat. Because the thing about the brain that is so confounding is that while it has many talents, distinguishing between a real pressing, life-threatening physical threat and a real pressing, psychologically threatening moment, the brain doesn't really distinguish between the two. So when you perceive, oh my God, I have to give a speech on this Zoom call, your brain is like, oh my God, there is a saber-toothed tiger sharpening his chops. It's no wonder you have a freaking quiver in your throat. Your brain is registering it as DEF-CON threat level midnight, right? Any Office fans out there will love that. So the question is, how do you get your brain to calm the F down long enough so that you can get that quivering voice to stand down? Here's the secret. There is this marvelous part of our biology, our physiology, called the vagus nerve. It's V-E-G-U-S, not V-E-G-A-S, like Elvis style. Vagus nerve. And what it does is it connects the brain with lots of important organs in our body. What we've discovered in recent years is that there is a very real connection between our physiology and our organs and our brain that isn't just about like functioning, right? There's more to it than that. The good news is, check this out, 80% of the fibers in the vagus nerve are what they call afferent. Afferent means that they go from the body to the brain. In other words, if you can control your physiology, your psychology will follow. What do I mean by that? If you've got a quiver in your voice, you know what you ought to do? Take a breath. Take a breath. And I know that I call this the I want my money back part, because whenever I tell people this, they're like, that isn't gonna help me. How's that gonna help me? Breathing, as if. It does help. You know why? Because if you take and it's not chest breath, it's a belly breath. Emphasis on the exhale. A long exhale sends a signal to the brain that there is no threat. There is no tiger. There is no person trying to jump you in an alley. It's just a Zoom call. It's just a web meeting. It's just a presentation. So what I want you to practice with me right now is breathing into your, like that area below your belly button. Like, breathe with me. Okay, and when you hit the top, maybe hold it for a second. And then I want you to exhale longer than your inhale. I know we're getting weird, we're breathing here, but it's my channel and I'll breathe if I want to. You can already start to feel your system calming down. Because what the quivering voice signifies is that your sympathetic nervous system, the fight, flight, or freeze system, has been triggered and is going into overdrive. It's weird because there's the sympathetic system and the parasympathetic. And I always get them confused. I'm like, why is fight, flight, or freeze called the sympathetic? Doesn't sympathy mean we'd be calming down? But when it was named many years ago, they called it the sympathetic system because it's sympathizing with the big emotions. And your big emotions in that moment are telling you to freak out. So your body is responding by freaking out. So what you want to do is engineer the parasympathetic reaction, which is calm down, we got this. And how do you do that? You do it with the breath. And here's what I want to tell you. When you're first getting good at this, don't solve for eliminating a quiver in your voice forever and ever from jump. Sometimes it takes a second or two for that parasympathetic system to kick in and get your voice under control. Just trust the physiology. If you calm yourself down, your voice might quiver for like a hot second and then it won't. And if it makes you feel better, every time I give a talk, which is constantly, it's literally how I make my living, I always start out with a slight tremor in my voice until the physiology can kick in. Most of the time, people don't really even notice it. Or if they do notice it, it's gone a second later and they're just with you on whatever journey you're taking them on. So I really want you to reframe your relationship with the voice quiver. It used to be like, oh God, it's doing that thing and I sound like a scared child. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to see it as a physiological problem that we can manage. We're going to see it as a sign that we need to do some deep belly breathing. In fact, I always attack the quiver of my voice issue by doing that breath work right before it's my turn to speak. That works wonders. And if you can treat it as a physiological issue and not a worthiness issue or like, oh my God, they're going to know I'm nervous issue, like that's not helpful. That is not helpful. But seeing it as simply an opportunity to manage your physiology, that you can do. And it works every time. So here's the thing. As you practice this, as you get better and better at this, I want you to acknowledge the progress you're making. Because so often the quiver in the voice happens out of habit, out of that, imposter syndrome we carry around with us. And the solution to the imposter syndrome, I think it was defined originally as an inability to process and own our successes. The way you solve that problem, which is the triggering for so many of us with the quivering voice, is to celebrate when it works. Celebrate when you're able to pull yourself back out of that fight, flight, or freeze and into a place of strength. Because by celebrating it and acknowledging it, you solidify a new habit, which is the habit of showing up and slaying, right? You may not be perfect. It may be a second or two of quivering voice, but it's only barely there because it's a new habit you will have formed. I'm telling you, that is in your future. So what I want you to do is start practicing this. The minute you notice your heart rate race a little bit, use it as an opportunity to do some deep breathing, longer on the exhale. Work with that parasympathetic system. You'll be amazed. Shine on. We need your light. If this was helpful, drop me a comment. I live for them. And as always, please subscribe. We'll see you next time.